I hope you all are doing well. This is Isha Shrivastava with my co-host Sharanya Bhargavi, and I welcome each and every one of you to the another amazing session, Let's Learn Web by Miss Varsha Jaiswal. So, folks, I'm having one question for you all. As the date of DSC Solution Challenge is approaching, so have you started implementing your projects for the hackathon? Everybody answer in the chat. So have you started implementing projects? Where is everyone? Okay, great. So participating in the DSC Solution Challenge will not only teach you working in a team, but also provide an opportunity for a huge collection of free learning pathways and courses to improve your skills. So even if you have not started building your solution, I really hope you will all come up with an amazing idea till the end of today's session. So without taking much of your time, I would request Sharanya to move forward with the session and introduce our guest speaker of today, Ms. Varsha Jaiswal. Over to you, Sharanya.
Hello everybody and hello ma'am. We are honored to have you for today's session on web technologies. I've attended quite a lot of sessions with you. I'm remarkable and many other sessions. So we are happy to have you here. Over to you, ma'am. Session.
Hey Isha and hi Sharanya. Good evening everyone. Hello all. I hope that you are all doing good and you are all okay. So here I am, Varsha Jaiswal, the organizer and ambassador at GDG WTM Jalandhar and working as a software engineer at Edfora Infotech. And I would like to take a moment to thank the DSC LPU team for having me here with you all. And in this upcoming 40 to 45 minutes, we'll talk about web and best practices which we should be using to create a great website to provide the best user experience and take care of those minute things which eventually will make your website great so that it will get listed higher on your Google search console result or any search engine. So moving forward with the question that can anyone answer what is web? Do you want to answer a question? Maybe a simple answer will work for me. What actually is web? We have talked about a lot of things. You might have heard about a lot of things like, okay, what is website? What is web pages? What is web? And all those things. So any layman answer that what actually web is?
What I would feel is web is anything that you'll surf upon and land over it. That could be web.
Yes, as a layman person, we'll definitely say this, that web is something, okay, you are looking for any information, you want some details about anything, or you are looking for any document, any pictures or any type of information, and that is something web. It's like, okay, the information shared via network all across the globe is actually web. So the next question to me, to you all is, how this web is connected? Like if you are opening, like let's say Amazon.uk, you are able to see the website of Amazon.uk. You are able to see, check out some websites, or like you are able to check out the website of USA government. So how this is connected, right? We are connected all across the globe. It's like, okay, I want to see XYZ thing from any city, any country, any part of the world. It's there. So what do you think? How is it connected? Like via cables or just like via air or something? There is something in air which connects us, or any idea? Okay, I'll give you the idea there. So web, each and everything, the internet is connected between continents through optical fibers. We have heard of this, right? And how this is connected, and it's connected through submarine cables under the sea, which is really not visible to us, but yes, we are connected through submarine cables. And if I'll talk about the web fundamentals, like as Manish said that web, it's actually an information system. So there are definitely there are three fundamentals about web. That is, first is website, browser, and third is server. Website, where it's a simple thing that is containing the information about XYZ topic or anything. Let's say you want to, or it's a set of related web pages for particular work or for particular information. Second is web browser, which is actually a platform, a software where you can type something and you'll see the result. As Sharanya answered it, that okay, we type for something, we search for something, and we see it as a response. Response of the same, right? So we use the software, we use the platform, that is web browser. And third is server, which actually stores all those web pages over the server and send us the response whenever user makes a request for any XYZ web page or for XYZ content, right? So I'll try to make you understand that okay, how this client server system works. Client, which actually is a browser, like you are searching something on Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or any other browser. So that browser is a client which makes a request to the server that hey, I want to know more about what is this DSC solution challenge going on. And then the server will look up to the files which have been stored over there and then respond with the valid information available, right? So server actually, or in normal language, normal English, I can say, computer which saves each and every data. Let's say you're on your computer or you have saved XYZ files and you're searching for some X file. So you just go to that search, if you're using, let's say, Ubuntu, Windows, or anywhere. So you'll just go to search and will type for the file name, and it will try to find out that file from your whole system and show it to you along with the file location and everything, right? So similarly, server is a computer which saves everything, but it's not that computer which is like I'm using my computer right now. It's not something like that. Server is something which is directly connected to the internet. We are not connected to the internet directly. We are connected to the internet through some internet service providers and all, right? So now server is actually a computer which has saved all this information, and browser, which is there in client's computer. Like in my computer, I am searching for, I was just going for okay, dsc.community.dev, and it just sent the request to that server and like gave me the response that okay, this is the website, these are the events, and this is something going on there, right? So the next question arises is how these computers can communicate. Like my system has connected with or communicated with that server's computer and sent me that information right there. So how it is communicating? Like let's say if you want to send a gift to your friend, you need that unique address of that person. Let's say in our case, in the home address case, PIN code is unique, right? And after that PIN code, you will definitely go with, PIN code is just about the area. You'll go with, okay, what is the street number and then the building number and each and every detail to identify the house uniquely, that unique house of your friend. Similarly, in case of computers, there is something like internet protocol. So internet protocol is just a set of rules that how the addresses and the routing will take place, how the data will be transmitted from one address to another address, and what will be the unique IP for each and every computer out there which is connected to a particular to ISPs or internet. So IP, how it works, as I said that okay, in case of home address, if you are sending a gift, you will definitely look up for not only PIN address, PIN code, not only state. It will be something like okay, you know the PIN code, by then by that you can definitely pick out the state and city maybe. So you'll at least need country name if you are sending it in other country, then the city name or state name, city name, the street address or the locality in that particular city, and then the house address. Similarly, in case of IP, we divide it into 4 parts, where the first is all about like it's decimal donated notation, and where the first is actually containing the country address, then it is divided into regions, subnetwork, and then the device address. So hence it's something like, okay, each and every device will have the unique IP connected to the internet and making a request to the server. So let's say my IP address is something like, my laptop's, my browser's IP address is something 172.168.7.25. And then I'm searching, or I just made the request for dsc.community.dev, which is stored in the server. And for this particular website, the IP is 192.168.1.1. Now, for each and every website, we cannot remember the IP addresses, right? It is too tough to remember that what is the website. It's easy to remember that, okay, I just have to go where facebook.com/dsclpu page. I can remember that URL. I can remember dsclpu.com, jdgjalandhar.com, but I will not be able to remember each and every IPs for each and every addresses, right? So hence, domain name system came in picture. You might have seen something like, okay, google.com, facebook.com, Instagram, Myntra, so many websites out there, right? So domain name system, it's actually your website name, which will be connected to that particular unique IP. So let's say if you are just hitting, if you are making a request to example.com, it will map it with the unique IP of that particular website, that is 172.138.98.12. Now, if you are making a request for example.org, the IP which is connected to this domain name is something different. It's 128.68.32. So similarly, each and every domain will have unique IP which will be stored in the server and will mapped with the domain name. So you just need to make request on domain and it will do the task at backend. So to explain this further, I'll take the example, like let's say my IP is something XYZ and I just made a request to example.com where IP is something 192.43 or something like that. So now server will just check, okay, so the request came from 172.16 and the request is for 192.43. So once the server will find out that IP address is there or not, if it is there, it will just send the response back to the IP from where I requested, not to any other else. Like it's not like if I am searching for, or if I have opened facebook.com, it will get opened in your mobile or in your laptop, right? It will be opened in your device only. So that's because server has stored that from which IP the request came and to which IP the request is for, and then it will revert back to the requested IP's address, right? So how this actually works is, I'll try to tell you with this example. That is, once the user has just visited on browser and is trying to search for any particular domain. So the expectation is, okay, as soon as I write google.com, the view or the website of google.com will be visible to me. But how it actually works is, in browser you will enter google.com and then that browser will send the request to the DNS server, that is domain name system server. And in that server, the domain will be mapped to the corresponding IP, right? So google.com, it might be mapped with some XYZ IP, and then from DNS server, it will send a request to the server saying that, okay, from this particular IP, I have got the request for XYZ IP. It will send the from IP and to IP to the server, and then server will check out that what is the website or what is the data that is been stored over there. It will generate the websites and it will just show that view to you. So this is how it works. Like domain, it gets translated and then it gets like, okay, to and from where the request is and to where like the response is to be sent. So this is how it actually works. Now we all know how we are connected and how this system actually works behind the server, behind writing this, okay, HTML, CSS, JavaScript and all. If I'll also try to take your time to talk about the state of web in India. So we all know that the previous year has been tough for most of us, and we all learned something. We all faced a lot of difficulties, but yes, there are a lot of opportunities with that too. And if I'll talk about the state of web in India, there are 500 million plus users who use internet actively every month. And out of those, 450 million plus users use internet from their smartphones every month. You might be thinking that, okay, they are the internet users. How come this is talking about the state of web in India? So if there is any internet, the user is surfing for anything, and there will be website coming in picture. Like even if in lockdown period you searched for Dalgona coffee, it sent you the response of some XYZ websites, right? Even if it is showing you the result of YouTube, it's again a particular website over there which is having the information regarding what is the recipe of this particular coffee, and how you can how you can have it in your home with your comfort and everything. So yes, seeing on these numbers, I can definitely say that there is a huge opportunities for web and mobile developers out there. If you are creating anything, even if you are in machine learning or data science, data analytics, or any field, at the end you'll definitely have a platform. You'll have a web portal or mobile portal to connect those data, to showcase those information, and to share it with your company people, or like anywhere across the world. Whatsoever your task is, even if like let's say I'm creating a machine learning model which will just, if I'll enter my name, it will just give me that, okay, let's say that silly games which are there, okay, by name, by date of birth, it will just share my horoscope or kind of thing, that what kind of person I am. Even if you have created the machine learning model for that, or any smart AI or something like that, you will need a web portal to push it over there on the server, which a user can access from anywhere in the world. So yes, it definitely comes with a lot of opportunities for mobile and web developers. Now we talked about, okay, there are opportunities. So how to start? How we can? I know that I have talked about these things from like past 15 minutes, but how to start this? How to go ahead with web development? So to start with web development, the first and most important thing which I'll say, always focus on the basics. It's not for web only, it's for any technology. If you're working, or if you want to start working in any XYZ technology, focus on basics is most for sure. So in case of web, you can focus, the web basics are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, where it provides the structure of your document, that how your website will look like, what is the structure, how the body should look, where should be the image and everything. HTML talks about the structure of the document, and CSS helps your document to get that styling done, to make it more beautiful, so that it will catch the user's eye and attention. Third, JavaScript, which is actually a scripting language, and it will help you to make your web page alive. And what I mean by alive is to make it more interactive. Like let's say if user is searching for something, and if a user needs to fill a form, there will be fields and everything. So to make that interactive, so that user can fill it out, user can see the information or whatsoever details, JavaScript plays the most important role in making the website interactive enough and beautiful enough, right? And it's not just about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There are many more things to explore. Like if I'll talk about front-end development. So front-end in a simple language is something which is visible on the UI, on the user side. So whatever is visible on user interface, how it is being taken care and everything, you can go for front-end development. And in this, the core languages are definitely HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But there are frameworks and libraries available which you can definitely try out to make your things easier, to make your things faster and reliable enough. So you can definitely hop on to try out Angular, Vue.js, React, or if you want to use framework for styling and all, you can go for Bootstrap. Now, one more thing is, you might have question, okay, out of these frameworks and libraries, okay, Bootstrap is for styling, so okay, I'll go with that. There are definitely a lot of styling frameworks available out there. So it's not about okay, only Bootstrap is in the picture. And similarly, the question might be which one to choose, Angular, Vue, or React. So my answer to this is, it's not about that which is beautiful, which is easier. It's always about what's your web application is all about, what's your use case, and based on those use case you can definitely choose one out of this. It's not like Angular is faster, because if Angular is faster, why Facebook is on React? If React is faster enough, why there are XYZ websites on Vue or Angular? So it's just based on the use case which you are using and how you want to get it done using these frameworks or libraries. Second comes is backend development. Backend is something like writing the logic over there and connecting creating APIs so that frontend can use it to make a request from the backend, and backend will take out the data from database and share it with frontend so that can be shared on UI. Let's say if you're logging on the Facebook, you are able to see, okay, there is a newsfeed section, chat, friends, friends, photos, and everything. That is user interface which you can create using front-end development, front-end technologies. But again, once you log in using that email, username and password, all these data comes from backend. So backend what actually does is, okay, if the user is logged in and the username and password is correct, then it will bring out all the information about friends, photos, profile, who are online or offline from the database, and will send that particular information to front end. So if you want to go with that, core languages are like Node, JS, JavaScript, PHP, and Python. And there are frameworks and libraries available for this too. If you are into Node or JavaScript, you can go for Express.js. If you are into PHP, there Laravel you can definitely try on. If you want to go with Python, or if you are a Python developer, you can try your hands on Django and all. So, and third is full stack development. If you want, okay, you are very good, and if you are interested to create the front end and back end hand in hand, you can go with that. And for that, there are stacks okay, main stack, where we use MongoDB as database, Express.js, and then Angular in front end and Node in back end. Similarly, MERN stack, where the front end is not on Angular but on React, and then it's MEV and stack, where it's Vue.js in front end. So you can definitely try out anything. It's based on your interest or your your interest, that which one you want to do. And if I talk about okay, what is all this development and technology is all about, there if I'll talk about the careers in web, there are 3 types of career which you can go on, like front end, back end, and full stack developer. So if you're a front-end developer, your task is to implement the web designs through coding languages which I talked about, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, React, Vue, kind of thing. The task of front-end developer is to manage the data which comes from the API to give the flawless experience to the user out there. Second is back-end developer. So back-end developer is actually who is responsible for server-side web application. They usually write the web services and APIs used by front-end developers or mobile app developers. So if you are a back-end developer, you can sit with front-end and mobile app developers too, and you'll be helpful for both of them. Third is full stack developer, which again who works for both front and back-end technologies, which means that they can tackle projects that includes database or even building user-facing websites or designs, or even work with clients during the planning of the projects. So these are the careers in web. which you can definitely possess, and which are really having a great future, or explore. You can definitely explore out these careers out there. Now I have to like you might be thinking that it's easy to have a career in tech, it's easy to create in web, it's easy to create a website and host it on any particular server using a XYZ domain, and then you will be there available on Google search engine or any other search engine, and your website will be accessed from anywhere in the world by any user on any device, right? But the reality is, if your website is not fast enough, 53% of consumers will abandon the site if they feel like, okay, your website is taking more than 3 seconds to load. So as you already know, like you might have faced this as a user also, that you are searching for XYZ website. Let's say you just want to upload a profile picture on Facebook, and at that time Facebook is running slow, and you are opening like facebook.com, and it is taking time to load. Maybe you will just change your mood to upload or change the profile picture at that time, and you might close the website thinking that, okay, I'll upload it later. Similarly, this was the case of Facebook. Maybe you will go back to upload the profile picture later. But let's say you searched for how to interview questions regarding web, and there are like XYZ 10 to 15 links coming on the first page, and you clicked on like 1, 2, 3, 4 links. Out of those 4 websites, 2 get loaded faster, 3rd is taking time, and 4 is like still just rounding and rounding. So what you'll do, you'll definitely close those 2 websites and you'll check out the information in other 2. And maybe later, if you're again searching for those questions, and if you'll come up with these websites, you'll feel like, okay, they take time to load. Better to check out other websites which will load faster and which will give the information faster. Because no one in this era, time is more costly than any other thing. So we really don't want to wait for anything, even for like more than 5 seconds. So to make web faster, I'm here with few best practices and which you can follow. I'm not at all covering all the best practices, but yes, the best of which I feel on my as per my experience. So which you can follow to make your web faster enough so that it will rank higher on the Google search engine. It will be SEO optimized, or it will take less time to load, so that it will provide the best user experience as like possible. So first, I'll talk about images. The images which we use in our website to make it more interactive, catchy, or good to look over, or to just grab the user's attention. So let's say if you're using any images in your website, always the problem is the image size. We just think that, okay, we'll have the best quality of image in our website so that it will not get blurred, it will not get faded, right? It will be perfect with the high quality picture. But because of that, the size increases, and once size increases, it will definitely take time to load on the website, and if it will not load faster, it will give bad user experience. I'm so sorry. So there are 2 types of images which you can use in your website. One is raster image, and second is vector image. So the changes, or the formats difference is there. Like let's say raster image, here the extensions like PNG, JPG, GIF, WebP comes in picture, and SVG is actually a vector image. So if you are using like let's say if you are using any logo or any diagrams, geometric shapes and all, go for vector image, because if you zoom it any number of times, it will not get faded. But the issue with vector image is, if you are going to add any picture, like let's say if you want to add your photo in your portfolio, and if you'll go with SVG, it might not provide that photorealistic image of your picture. In that case, you need to go with other formats of, like you need to use raster images, right? So in this case, use correct image format. Always take care, like, okay, you are using the correct image format. In the latest browsers, even like WebP came in picture. It is very reliable, it's very good to use, but again, always think of that it should be loaded in all types of all older versions too. It should not, your websites should not only support the newer versions or the newer versions of the browsers. So you can go with like, okay, reduce the size of the image, try. And if you are reducing the size, if you are reducing the compressing any image, use the format JPEG, as it's the best, and it will not affect the pixels of your image. If you are using any geometric shapes, go for SVG. And but if you are using any picture, or you want to give that realistic picture to the users out there, go for PNG or WebP formats. Try to use lazy loading concept in your website, like providing like loading is equal to lazy. What actually lazy loading is? Let's say if your website is containing 10 or 50 pictures out there, so it should not be like that all the pictures are getting loaded in one go. Once the user will open the website, it will be able to see the front or the first part of the website, right? And once the user will scroll, then only the images should load. In this way, the website will load faster, the first layout, and the user will be able to see that, okay, the data is loaded and it loaded faster enough. Also, don't use GIFs in your file. If you want to add any animations in your website, go for MP4 video. You might be thinking, why video when we can create animation in GIF file? But the reality is, GIF actually takes larger size as compared to the same MP4 video of the same. So go with video attribute and add video if you want to have any animation rather than using GIF file. Second, let's say you are creating a website and you are using, or you are opting for a framework to in your particular website. In this case, always try to make maximum use of your website. It's not like, okay, you are using the framework only for one particular feature out of like 10 pages in your website, because it will lead to have like unused CSS and JavaScript codes, which will eventually increase the size of your web app and will make it slower. Let's say, I'll take the example of, you are taking Bootstrap, you are using Bootstrap, and you are just using one feature, that is how you can table feature, but you are not using all other features. So definitely the CSS file will have all the information about like button, carousels and each and everything, and it will make your website slower because each and everything will be loaded even though you are not using it. So rather write your own CSS to design that one part. And to check this out, like let's say you are using any framework and there are unused CSS and JavaScript, you can go to the coverage tab in the Chrome DevTools section, and it will help you, or it will tell you with all the information about what are the unused JavaScript which is there in your website and which you can remove to make it faster. Third is accessible through all the browsers. The point which I was mentioning while talking about the images, always take care, keep this in mind, that your website should be accessible from all browsers and from all the older versions too. It's not like, let's say if you are using any particular feature, any latest application which is there and which will help your website to get faster enough, but what if that is not supported in the older versions? People out there might have those older versions too, and they'll fail. They'll not be able to access or get the best experience. So even if you are using the latest versions, always write a backup code that if the latest version will not work on the older browsers, this is something should run, and the user should experience what the website in the best way possible. So you can definitely use like virtual browsers like at Browser Stack or something, which will help you with the detailed information for a website. Like let's say your website is xyz.com, and it will give you the detailed information that on which version or on which device this website is not working, so that you can handle those cases too. Next is try making use of performance tools which are available out there, which helps you to give a detailed feedback or detailed report about your website, that how you can enhance the things out there. So first tool which I'll talk about is Lighthouse, which is actually an open source tool and to improve the quality of web pages. Second is Page Speed Tools, which actually helps you to check the performance on mobile as well as desktop devices. Third is Web Page Test, which will again help you to check the performance along with some additional informations like how much time it is taking, which page, which section is taking more time, so that you can work on those sections too. These all tools are almost same and will help you to enhance your website, to improve the performance and to give a check that okay, what's working, how, and how much fine it is. So you can go for all three all together, because you'll have, as much as you will try to improve the things, it will be better enough. So if I will talk about Lighthouse, you just need to, like, it's available with Chrome DevTools. There is a Lighthouse section which you can on which you can go and you can click on okay, generate report, and it will give you the detailed report about your website. Next is, and which I feel one of the most important, is UI UX patterns. We might take care of okay, image size is less and each and everything, maybe font size, font and everything is less or decreased to the best, but always follow the UI UX patterns. That is, the website should be accessible enough. Take care of the accessibility, right? Like, users should be able to access the pages easily, or try to use features like tab index, which will help the user to access the website better. Second is readability. Always take care of the font sizes, background colors. It should not be like that the gray background is there, the light gray background with white text on it. It should not be like the black background with navy blue text on it. The website should be readable enough, and always when you are doing it, like going for font size and every other things, always try to give it a try with 100% zoom. It should not be like on 90% whether it is readable or not, 80%, but yes, always take care of these zoom ratios too, that it should be at least readable enough on 80% too, 80 to 125% kind of thing, that the user is able to see the information in the best possible way, right? Next, which one should take care, is the website should be visible on your search engine. It should be optimized enough that this SEO will rank it higher and it will let your website be visible on the search engine. So what you can do to make your website visible on search engine is, first you can make use of meta tags, which is actually to provide metadata to your website, like what is the description. Just provide the description of the website, like if your website is, or let's say jdgjalandhar.com, provide the description that what it is all about, what is JDG Jalandhar, and each and every information. Provide banners and various other things like keywords. If I'm searching for community, JDG Jalandhar, something like this, the website should be visible on search engine. There are meta tags available for different social medias too, like how your website should look on Twitter, how your website should look on Facebook. You might have seen something that, okay, if you're writing like, let's say youtube.com in a tweet, it will give you the pop-up of overlay with a particular banner and the description, the few information about it. Let's say if you're writing the website name like iwdindia.in on Twitter, so it will just give you the overlay with a banner of IWD with a few lines description about what is IWD all about and what is the title of this. If you do same thing, IWD .in on Facebook, it will be different. It will be different on LinkedIn. It can be same for all of this, but if you want it to be different on different other platforms, you can go with that. Because the audience is different everywhere, and this is all you can define under meta tags. Second, Google Search Console. It actually improve your performance on Google search engine, and try to measure the site search. Like it will help you to measure the site search results, traffic, performance, that how it is working or how it is performing on your search console. Third is make use of Google data structure. Google data structure is actually describing your site, that what is all about, and it's just like giving that extra information about your website. Okay, so talking about Google Search Console, it's actually like, if you want to get more details about it, you can go on search.google.com/search-console. So it's a tool which will help you to get the information, to tell you that from which devices people are viewing your website, from which area, demographic, like what are the keywords which they are using to go to or to land up on your website. And this way it will help you that what all the things my user is talking about. If people in Punjab are using my website more, maybe I'll try to add up features, something which will catch the eyes by people from New Delhi too, right? So to target the audience and everything. Google uses structured data, like data structure which I talked about, to understand the content on your page. Like let's say you can just define like you can be more specific about your website is about an event or a movie ticket or something like this. Like you might have searched for XYZ thing and you have seen like few websites in the form of carousels coming up. So this can be done using Google data structure. And if you want to know more, I'll share the resources in the later part of the PPT. Once you have created all those things, one of the best practices which you can follow to make your website not faster enough, but yes, to get to the users or to reach out to more and more users out there, we should always take care, or we should always try to know our customers who are using your website. Try to know more about them so that you'll be able to provide that personalized information to those customers, and they'll stay connected to your website. And if you want to know more about your customers, you can definitely opt for Google Analytics. It will give you the deeper report, and which will help you to get that understanding of your website, of your customers actually, that from where they belong, what is the device they are using, what are the keywords they are using, and it will help you to analyze that vast data and keep that on a place which will eventually help your business in one or another way. So to see more, you can hop on to analytics.google.com for this. So along with these best practices which I talked about, that you need to take care of images, or supportable for older versions too, or like going ahead with frameworks, performance tools, you can also your website, you can also make your website a progressive web application. What is actually PWA? It's something which will help your website to be reliable, fast, and engaging. It will give features like a push notification, which will help you to engage with the user by sending out some notifications to those users. It will be reliable because it can be accessed offline, and you can give those features like add to home screen, and once it will be used, stored on the home screen, it will be reliable enough. Even if the internet is not there, it will show the information to the user. And why it is fast? Because until and unless the data is not, the server has not responded with the data, it will just show the data which was stored in the cache of the user's browser, and hence it will fast. It will not show those loading timers or loaders to the user, and it will help your website to be faster. Second is, but before moving to the second additional thing, I wanted to ask one thing, that you search something on Google and you might get information in forms of carousels, cards, or various other formats, right? And you might have seen these cards loading very faster on Google search engine. Like you search for on Mars landing, something, and you got the information in forms of Carousel very fastly. So these all are working on AMP. AMP, what it is, it's Accelerated Mobile Pages, which is actually an open source project for creating super fast pages. And you can hop on to g.co/amp demo to have a look of it and try it out. And it's not like that with AMP pages you can create on a website. With AMP, with Accelerated Mobile Pages, you can create stories like Instagram story. You might have seen, like you'll search on Google or something, you will see some stories over there. And that stories actually are platform independent. Like there will be a share button, and you can share it with your friends and family or anywhere. And it will not ask you to install something. Like let's say if you will be sharing an Instagram story to your friend over WhatsApp, the link of the story, it will ask that particular user to install Instagram to view that story. But in the case of AMP Story, they are super fast and they will not need any platform or any device to share or to view that particular information. Third is AMP Email. With AMP, we can write email which will not ask the user to go on particular website. Like let's say, if I will take the example of Ola or any other thing, you might have seen that, let's say in case of Flipkart. So whenever you talk to any customer support, they come back with an email, they send an email to provide a feedback. And there is a bar like 1 to 5. Once you click on 5, that data is not saved over there. It will redirect to you on flipkart.com with the links and all, and there you have to provide all the feedbacks. But with AMP Email, if you are using AMP Email, you'll click on 5 and the data will be stored over there. It will not redirect you to any other website. Similarly, with AMP, we can create ads too, and they are way faster as compared to the standard ads over there. So it's not about like, okay, if you are giving it a try, if you are investing your time in learning AMP or in practicing AMP, you'll be able to create a website only. No, you can definitely create so many things out there which will help you to connect with the audience faster in a better way. Next comes in picture is a single page application. So I'll try to tell you that what actually single page application is. Let's say if you are opening a website, Facebook, and you are on facebook.com, it will load the data, it will show each and every information. And once you hop onto like facebook.com/your username, or if you click on your like message request section or any other section, it will redirect to that. It will reload the whole web page and will show the information of your profile. Like once you click on profile, it will reload whole page, right? So what single page application does, it avoids the reloading. It does not need to get reloaded or loaded when you are switching from one to another route. What it does is, okay, I'll take the example of my portfolio. Let's say you have a portfolio and there are two sections like home, maybe bio, talks, and contact. So once I click on bio, I'll see the information about bio, and the URL will be same like varshajaswal.com or whatsoever URL is. Once I'll click on talk, the route will not be updated, the website will not reload, only the UI, the information which is visible, will get updated with the talks information. So only it avoids reloading the pages, and it will just update the data on that particular UI. That's it. And you can create a single page application using frameworks like Angular, Vue, or library like React. So yes, that's it from my end. There are resources if you want to check out, like for web basics, you can check out the resources like this, and for frameworks, these are the few links which you can definitely try out. I'm not saying that these are the only links which you can look up to, but these are the best because these are the best from my experience, because I checked out these links while I was learning or while I was starting my career in web. So if you want to access these resources, you can hop onto this link, bit.ly/resources for web. All the listings which I have just shared are there, and you can share it later also. You can check them out later also. So you can save this link. With that, if you have any doubts or queries, I would love to answer them here also. And if the time not permits, you can reach out to me on Twitter anytime, and I would be happy to answer you out. And yes, that's it from my end. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And this is my Twitter handle where you can reach out. Yeah. So any questions, any queries till now? I can see a few questions.
Few questions.
Yeah. So
It was actually an amazing session. Thank you for that. Isha, would you like to read the questions?
yeah, sure. So this is the question by Himakshi. Are there any possibilities to reduce the loading time of your page?
So Himakshi, this is what I just talked about. Yes, you can definitely reduce the size, the loading time of your page, but for that you need to, maybe you can use those performance tools like Lighthouse, Page Speed, or Web Page Test. It will help you to know that why your website is taking time. Like let's say you are using a image of larger file, you are using fonts which are actually larger, of larger size and all. So try reducing the size of them, try optimizing it by providing meta tags, and try optimizing it by reducing those unused CSS and JavaScript, and hence at the end your website loading time will get increased. Try using features of PWA to enable caching and all. Yes.
Yeah, we have the next question from Suhani Singh. Which framework would you recommend for JavaScript?
Okay, so for JavaScript, Shuhani, there are a lot of frameworks. Like I can't even name those frameworks, but yes, for front-end frameworks are like Angular and Vue, and the library that is React. And for backend like frameworks, there are the various things like Node.js, Express, and all those things, and many more. But if you are going for front end, you can go with any one of this, like Angular, Vue, React. I'll not say which one I recommend, because honestly I work on all these three. I work in community on Vue, I work in my company on Angular and React. So it's actually all three I'm using, and I don't feel like which one is better, because once you get your hands dirty, or once you try working on those frameworks, you'll find it easy. It's not like Angular is easier than Vue or is faster than Vue. It's just like that, if you are using the best practices in whatsoever framework you are using, the website will be faster enough. It's just about the use case which you are using. That's it.
Okay, so there's another question by Jyoti. While developing the web, who is responsible for their security related issues in it? Like it is done by front end, back end, or full stack, or there is any other team who is responsible for security related issues in website?
So Jyoti, if your question is around security, like security about data and everything, so actually backend, what they do, they write APIs and all those things to bring out the data, and to then front end take care of just showing it over the UI. Security here is from both the end. It's not about just front end, it's not about just back end. We both need to work together to hide those personal informations about the users, not sharing it, like let's say username and password. You can definitely, if you are sending the in DB, in database, actually what you can use, you can, rather than saving that password directly, maybe you can create some hash key or some random keys out of for that particular password, and it will be stored, so that even if the password like from front end, you just need to create keys, you just need to change it into some other format and share it over the with the APIs and all. So this is how you need to secure the things, like those information which are really critical enough. You can definitely try using technologies like which we have studied in college time, to change the data, to just update, make that in hash key or something kind of thing, and store it in that format, rather than saving it in plain password kind of thing.
Yeah, we have one more question from Tavneet. How to integrate backend and frontend together?
Okay, so backend and frontend together is like, let's say backend development you are doing on Node, and what as a backend we'll do, we write some APIs. Let's say I logged into my website and I want to show informations like from which city I am and everything, and that information is stored in DB. So now there will be an API for the user information. So as soon as I will be logged in, the backend will find out or will pull out all the information from the database about and about myself, and will send that data in. I'll create the request. I'll write the HTTP request for that particular API, and I'll send the username and password, let's say, or just username and all. And then backend will verify the data and will share the response that this is the user's name, this is the city, state, and everything. Once I got the data, I just stored the data in one variable and I just showed it on my user. So the API which the backend has written, to integrate it locally, you can definitely hit it like using Postman. You can deploy it on servers out there, or you can use like various services, tools available. Like let's say you can connect your backend to hit APIs like using Apache or kind of thing. You can also deploy your application, create your APIs using Firebase. So it's just like, okay, you are writing an API, you are deploying it somewhere, and you are creating, then you are making a HTTP request to that particular API from front end. So this is how you can connect them.
Okay, so this is another question from Suhani Singh. Is it okay if we learn backend before front end?
Is it?
Is it okay if we learn backend or before front end?
Yes, it's totally up to you. If I'll talk about my journey, I was interested in web, but I was not much into the front end part. When I did my internship for 1 year, I did it in Django. I was a backend developer, but then I just thought that, okay, let's try out this front end also, and I invested my 2 to 3 months to practice this front end, to just try it out, that whether I am going to love it or not. And eventually I am having a career as a front end developer as of now. So it's totally okay if you are very good in writing logics. If you want to like write those logics and queries and all, go for backend developer. If you are more interested to curate this beautiful user interface for the users, to showcase the information, to make it the website interactive enough for the users, you can opt for front-end developer.
Okay. We have also one question. What is difference between full stack and mean stack development?
So there is no difference like that. Full stack is actually front-end plus back-end. And under full stack development, the hirings are something like other stack which are being used is like, okay, mean stack, MERN stack, or MVVM stack. It's nothing different. Full stack, under full stack, mean stack means Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. If a company needs MERN, that means the company is using React as front end. So Mongo, Express, React, and Node. Similarly, if the company is looking up for MVVM, the company is working on Vue.js, and hence Mongo, Express, Vue, and Node. So full stack is actually mean stack developer is a full stack developer. MERN stack developer is a full stack developer. Full stack is front end, back end. You can tackle database queries and all. Hence, you are full stack developer. And mean stack is just a part, like a type of it.
Okay, another question from Himakshi. What are the different frameworks we can use in Python for web development?
Okay, so in Python for backend, you can go for Django. For frontend, you can go for Flask. These are the frameworks which you can opt if you are working in Python and if you want to have a career in web development.
Okay, so this is the question from my side. Like as DSC solution challenge is approaching, so according to you, what are some of the things or the important aspects one should remember while making any project in a hackathon?
Okay, so in a hackathon, while creating a project, one should take care of few things. One is, let's say, creating a website for any solution, like providing a particular UI or creating APIs. Each and everything is easy because that is per user's demand or the application demand. Let's say if you want to create an application which is just to store information and like once the user is logged in, show it over there. Any project, right? So for that login, you can definitely create, try to think from the user's perspective rather than thinking from yours perspective. Let's say you are while logging in, you are asking for user's address and each and everything. At the starting, user might not feel okay to share the address, but maybe as a developer, how you can get that address is you can share a particular information that why you are looking up for this address and how you will be using this address to give that user a better experience. And let's say your application is something about like, oh, if Ola is asking for my address, I can definitely share it because I have to book my cab and the cab will be visible based on my address. But if Facebook is asking for my address, I'll not share it because Facebook has nothing to do with my current location, right? So this is something which you need to take care. Like try to make it think from a user's perspective. Second thing, make sure that you are going with the best practices because the people who will be checking you, like taking care or like who will check your projects, again they will also not have that much time that they'll wait for 10 seconds to get your website loaded. So try to make it faster enough. Use technologies like PWA, AMP and all so that it will be faster enough and will give the best user experience. Third, take care of the navigation and all. Like it should not be something like, okay, I'm unable to find, I have logged in but I am unable to find from where can I log out. It should not be like that, okay, on a corner you have to click or something and then like maybe settings and then you will be able to log out or something. You have to, so it should be clear navigation. As a developer, not as a web developer only, but yes, as a developer, this is one thing which we need to take care of. That is that comes under UI UX pattern. That the user experience, it should be minimal clicks. It should not be like user is like going from X to Y to Z to XYZ and then getting the button of logout or to update the picture or something like that. So try to take care of that user experience also, that it's taking the minimal clicks. It is giving you the best navigation, easier to navigate from one to another pages. It's not like, okay, let's say I have come from home page, I clicked on profile, then my email, then I added the email and then I saved it. And again, to add mobile, it should not be like I'll go back and then mobile will come. Or now I just want to go back from profile to home. So ideally, if you will not provide a home button, it will be like, okay, you'll do back, then you'll go to profile, then back, then back, and you will come back to home. So try to keep that navigation clear enough, that the navigations are easy. The best practices have been used, like the images size and load time and all. It's responsive enough if you are creating a website. It's not like that you have created it for 15-inch laptop, you just took care of that. And there are people nowadays who are preferring 13-inch laptop more. It's a smaller in size, it's great to have. There are people who are accessing, as I have already shared, that out of 500 million plus users, around 400 million plus users are there active on smartphones. So that means that your website will be accessed by people on smartphones more than browser. Like you have never opened maps.google.com on website. Either you just opt for, okay, on phone I'll just check it out. So there are few things which you'll just check it out on the desktop or in mobile. So try to be responsive enough. And again, in phone, it's not like it should be supporting for Pixel 2 and not for iPhone 5. So yes, try to make that website responsive enough. And responsive is just not like that you are decreasing the size and the website content is getting resized or it's getting in. It's the layout has been taken care. You also need to take care of the font sizes and each and everything. Like if I'm viewing it in desktop, the font size 12 might work, but if I'm using it in phone, it might be less enough, or if it might be more enough, right? So take care of these minute things, like the website is responsive enough, it's interactive, it's easier to navigate. One more thing is give the feedbacks to the user. Like if you have added a feature like add your information and there is a form and user had added all the form details and is clicked on the save button. On clicking on save, maybe you are calling a API or you are storing the data in database, but you have not provided the information there. So user will keep clicking on save because user will not be able to know that whether my data has been saved or not. So provide the feedback information, like, okay, the user has clicked on save, there might be some animation or there might be a loader coming up that, okay, your details has been saved, a pop-up, even if let's say the data has been saved, you click on save and that form got closed. Again, user will not know whether it got saved or not. So let's say if the user has clicked save, the form got closed, there should be a pop-up coming up after getting saved that, okay, your data has been saved. So that user will be aware that yes, data has been saved. So take care of these minimal things. I know this will not affect the working, the logic of your particular application on whichever project or ideas you have, but this will help to make your website interactive enough, and at the end it will provide the best user experience to whosoever will be using. So yes, that's all from my end, is what I feel.
Thank you, ma'am, for all the tips. We have one last question. Who is more appreciated in corporate world, a full stack, mean, or MERN stack?
Okay, so again, Jyoti, you are confusing it with full stack is different or MERN and mean are different. No, actually a mean stack, if I am a mean stack developer, I am a full stack developer. If I am a MERN stack developer, I am a full stack developer. And there is nothing like appreciation in any corporate world. If your company needs a React developer, a full stack developer who works with React, the company will go for a MERN stack developer. And if the company is working on Angular, they'll go for mean stack developers. So there are opportunities available for almost all these stacks. But yes, it's just about the requirement of the company and the technology which you are comfortable in.
Okay, so I'll be wrapping up the session in the next 5 minutes. If anyone is having any doubts, you can ask in the chat. And I'm having another question for you from my side. Like sometimes it happens with all of us that we are working on a project or learning a new technology, but in between something happens and we don't get the same energy to continue working. So at that situation, what ways would you suggest to overcome that phase and get motivated, start working again?
Okay, so one thing which I feel like is there is nothing like we all are motivated every day. We all don't. We feel like, okay, we all write this, most of us write this New Year resolutions, right? So what's the better example than that? We all feel like, okay, I'll do this 1 day, 2 days. Even if someone is doing it for 3 days, kudos to that person, because I have not done that in 3 days also. So we start with a high motivation, and yes, it happens by learning also. Like we feel it might not be because of motivation decrement, it might be because we get few things. There are new opportunities which just came in between, and we are like, okay, how we can just take care of all those things, right? And we get distracted from our path, what we were doing. In that case, I'll just say, let's say if you are planning to learn something and if you feel like after some time you are not able to concentrate on that and you are like, okay, no, not now, and suddenly you just stopped working on because of XYZ reasons. Give it a time. Like, it's not like, don't start feeling like, okay, I wanted to do this and I am unable to do this from past 2 or 3 days. If you don't want to do this, it's just because your mind needs rest, is what I feel. I'm not saying that I might be correct, but yes, it's it's not because our mind, it's just because our mind needs rest. Okay, you are doing something, but yes, try to as much consistent as you can be. So if you have like stopped working on it for 2 or 3 days, give it one more day and just think that I wanted to get this done. Just try to look up to the reasons why you wanted to get this done. Like, you wanted to learn React, but why? Not just for job, right? We don't learn for anything just for job. People who are listening out there here today, they're not just listening because they want to get into this DSC solution challenge and win it at the end. It might also be because they just want to learn, they just want to explore, and it's just for the inner satisfaction which we have, right? That I want to just check it out how it works, right? So try to find out that why you wanted to learn, why you had this craze of learning this XYZ technology. Give it a day, think about it, and next day again start freshly. Think like, okay, whatever distraction was there, it's okay, it was there, it happens. It should not be like, oh my god, I just wanted to do this, I was able, I wanted to commit it to this and I was not able to. What's the failure? How can I improve this? What to do, what not to do? Rather than doing this, just do, okay, it's okay, I broke that whatever I wanted to. I'll start it again freshly. And I'll take it forward as much as possible. Because if you'll start cursing it like, okay, I wanted to do this, but I failed and I was not able to do, at the end, it will just affect and it will increase the number of days you stopped working or stopped focusing on that. So rather than counting, just let it go. I know it's right, like not easy to, as it's human behavior to find faults in ourselves and keep them counting, but I'll say one line that don't count the faults, even if you get diverted from your path for a few times. And if you feel like, if you just came to a point like, how come I got diverted, that's where you came to know that you were serious, because you got already diverted. How come you remembered about it? Ki, yes, I wanted to do this. You got that in your mind because you were serious about that. So again, start, rather than thinking that what was my fault, how I got diverted, what, when, why, and all those things. Rather than answering that, just think, okay, restart. That's it. Like, simple. Your laptop gets hanged and you don't feel like, okay, you don't feel like why it got hanged. You don't cry over there. You just, if nothing is working or helping you out, you just press on the power button for a few seconds and then it gets switched off and you restart it again. And again, after that, you don't think how come it got hanged, what are the tabs got closed. You just go to Chrome. Okay, if there is option of restore, you restore, or if it is not showing that, you just again open those websites on which you are working, those applications on which you are working, rather than crying that, oh, I restarted it, the tabs are closed now, how to do, right? So try implementing it in your life also, that restart it. That's it.
Okay.
I answered it well.
Okay. Yes. So thanks a lot, Varshadi, for joining us and giving your valuable time from your busy schedule. It was really great having you on board. And I also believe that this time DSC Solution Challenge on the behalf of Lovely Professional University will be amazing. And thanks to our DSC lead, Bhavesh Mali, and all the code members, Suraj, Sharanya, Bose, Manish, and our graphic team, Anmol, Ayush, and every member who has done a really amazing job. So thanks to the entire team for your efforts, and thanks to our patient audience. We promise that we'll be bringing such more events in future as well. So here I'm signing off. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care and all the best.
Thank you.